Welcome back to Computer Science 248, Operating System Programming, Lecture 8. In this lecture we will continue with what we'd been talking about in Lecture 7 and finish up this chapter 8 from the Afzal book on the file system. Okay, so this is the second part of Chapter 8. And Chapter 8 continues with material that we started in Chapter 5, talking about the Unix file system. And so far we've been looking at a bunch of commands like CP for copying, MV for moving, and then LN for linking files. We also looked at shell input and output redirection, IO redirection, and file substitution metacharacters. We'll look a little bit more at that. There's a few basic commands that we're going to end up with in this section, in this lecture. Commands like find to find files, and then a few more. So let's start by looking at commands for finding files. So actually we're just going to look at one, that is the find command itself. Okay. So let's say you have a whole bunch of different directories and you have different files and you want to find one particular file or a group of files. What do? You can actually cd to each folder and look around and see if you find it. Or you can use file name metacharacters to locate files, things like that. Sure, those are all useful ways of finding things. But there's a very nice command called find. And the basic way to use it is to say find, that's the name of the command, and then where you want to start looking. And then it used to be that this command would find things, but it wouldn't actually show the results unless you had a minus print. But these days it turns out you don't need that anymore. So the book shows you the way find was set up, that you had to have an action. So you had to always have find and a particular path, particular location where you start looking for a particular file. And then you can have, this is optional, that is you can say what it is that you're looking for or not say it. Just in which case, if you don't say what you're looking for, it'll find everything. And then finally you had to say, or this is optional too. In the book, they always have a minus print, but it turns out that was the way find used to work. Now you don't need that minus print anymore. Okay, so let's try this out. So if you're just starting out, you will need a terminal. And I'm going to make the text bigger so that you can see it better. Okay, so here we are. These are all the things that you have in your home directory, let's say. And you say find. Can you just say find, hit enter, it'll find everything. And by default, the place where it looks is in the current directory. So you can get the same result by just saying find and then period. Period means, we haven't talked about this, but period means the current directory where you're at. You get exactly the same output, basically. And then you can also say minus print. So it used to be that you had to say minus print or else it didn't do anything. It didn't actually show you what it found. But it's no longer the case. You can do everything without the print. I mean, find will show you stuff without having the print. Okay, so this is straight from the book. This says you have to say find and then dot and minus print, hit return, and everything starts working. This command basically just displays the names of all the files and directories in the current directory. So dot means the current directory. Okay, so we will go into that in more detail. We explain what dot means there, but here is a quick explanation. The specified directory here is indicated by a dot, meaning the current directory. And the options after the path name always start with a hyphen, that is this -print. And in this case, -print means to display them. And it says here, don't forget the -print action key. Without it, find does not display any path names. That used to be true, is no longer the case. You don't need the -print. So there's a lot of things that you can do, a lot of options. You can search by name, and you can have wildcard characters or file name meta characters like we looked at the last video. You can say find all files of a certain size or less than a certain size, find files of a particular type like regular files or folders or directories. Use the access time to find files. So if you have some files that were recently accessed, you want to check if they're still there, sure, go ahead and do this. You can also check if search for files by modification time. So access time just means the last time they were accessed, and modification means they were changed recently, let's say. You can also use -newer, that was modified more recently than some other file. So there's a whole bunch of different options. And let's try these out. So let's try searching by name. Let's search for something that we know is there. For example, where should we look? Let's look in desktop. Okay, so we know that there are these two files that end in desktop. So if let's just do things that we know will give us the right result first. Let's say find in the current folder, in the current directory with the name anything followed by the string desktop. Okay, and the way the book does it is it says you have to have this print. And sure enough, it finds the ones that we saw, examples.desktop, here it is, ubiquity, gtk, ui.desktop, here it is, and then it found one that we didn't actually look for. We weren't really expecting, I should say. So you can limit your search to just one particular folder if you want. Say find in the directory called desktop all files that have the name that start with anything and end with desktop, and then print it out. And I'll show you that you don't really need that -print, even though the book says you do. And here they are. So this found all the files that start with anything and end with desktop in this directory named uppercase D desktop. Okay. So those are the kinds of things that you can do. And in this case, this example, try some of these things. This is looking for a file named exactly first.c. So C program file that says first, that's named first.c, and then you can look for all files that end with a .c, which should basically mean all C program files. You can do stuff like that, and that'll be very handy later on this semester. You can look for all files that start with anything and then end with a period and a single character after the period. Okay, so try these things. I hope these things make sense. These are all things that are nice to try out. I'm not going to actually go through all of these different combinations. You can search by a certain size. The thing to keep in mind is that the size refers to blocks. So if you say size 20, that means you're looking for all files named, all C program files, or files with a .c at the end, that are at least, in this case, you're saying that are exactly 20 blocks large. And then print it. You don't need the -print. You can also search for files that are at least 20 blocks large, or all files, if you say -20, that are 20 or smaller. Okay, hope that makes sense. You can use the minus type and search for, if you use F, regular files or ordinary files. If you use D, then you're looking for directories, and that can be handy sometimes. C and B are things we haven't actually looked at a whole lot, so let's just not worry about that right now. C stands for character special files, B stands for block special files. We haven't really talked about that, so save that for later. So let's say you have a file first.c and you want to find all files that are newer than first.c. That is, files that you created after you created first.c. In that case, you would say find in the current directory anything newer than this file called first.c and print it. Okay, so you can search for things by its last access time, and you can search for things that were accessed exactly 10 units ago, and in this case find uses units of days. So if you say -8 time, you have to have an integer here, and that means exactly 10 days ago. You can use -10 to say, just like with the size. In this case, you're referring to files that were accessed less than 10 days ago. Similarly, you have plus, and you have -m for modification time. Files modified exactly 10 days ago, less than 10 days ago, or more than 10 days ago. Okay, so those are all things that are pretty straightforward, I believe, and you can try it out. Now, the interesting thing about find is that once you find stuff, not only can you just print it out, but you can execute certain commands on those files. You can use the -OK to ask for confirmation before you apply the command. So you can either use the -exec and say, okay, just do something to each one of these files that you find, or you can say -OK, that is, ask the user for confirmation before, like, let's say you're trying to delete all old files. Well, you might want to be careful, because remember, if you remove, you cannot go back into the trashing, pick it back out or something. You have to be careful and only delete things that you really want to delete, and so this comes in handy sometimes. Okay, so the print, as we discussed, we really don't need it anymore. Okay. So exec is very useful, and take this example. So here what we're doing is we're saying find in the current full directory and subdirectories all files that start with that are named first.c, that have a modification time that is at least 90 days old, and if you find them. And it turns out what this sequence of characters mean is remove all those files. So remove all files named first.c in the current directory and all subdirectories that are named first.c and 90 days old or more. That's what the plus means. Okay, so and you have to have this exact sequence of letters. You say rm open curly brace, close curly brace, slash semicolon. You have to have all of those. If you miss one of those, well, looks like it finds it, but might not do anything. Okay, so try this out. Try out all the different things that you saw, all the different options for find, and we'll take a more detailed look in the next video.